and welcome to the 71st episode of Recluse Horror. This is a daily horror movie review podcast. So just a little background on the project. Back on my birthday in April, I decided I wanted to watch and review a horror movie every single day. I have done so for the past 338 days. Although only the last 71 have been podcasts. Before that, it was text reviews. So I didn't get very much sleep last night. Totally my fault. Took too long doing everything. Today I'm gonna try to get to bed a little bit earlier. If you listen to this daily, then you'll know that I'm sick. I am still sick. I'm feeling better mostly, other than that I'm not getting enough sleep. So I feel like it's not doing me a lot of favors. So I found a movie really quickly, and usually I don't vet the movies that I decide to watch, but this particular one I vetted even less. Usually I'm a little more discerning in choosing things, and I didn't realize it, but I actually picked a movie from one of the directors. I just reviewed something by them. The director's name is Azron Shai, which I actually did not mention in that review because I didn't have it in front of me. He did the movie called Orphus that I did, I think it was like 6 days ago, something like that. That was from 2015. The one that I did today, the short film that I did today, is Laptop from 2011. I would have probably... I had a lot of problems with that movie that I felt were things that are very simply solved. And those are the things that needle me about movies. If you have a problem and it's easily solved and you do not solve it, I can't get those things out of my head. Now, because of that, because there were some very basic problems, I would have chosen, if I were trying to watch something from this director again, I would have chosen something that came after. As I said, this comes from 2011, which was 4 years before the other movie was made. But again, it wasn't a conscious decision. I just, it was a movie and I chose it. It was not terribly long. It was like maybe 3.5, possibly closer to 4 minutes. And I'm trying to get through this pretty quickly today. Hopefully be able to get a little bit more sleep than I've been getting the last few days. So, but yeah, this one, honestly, in some ways it was better than Orphus. And in some ways it was a little bit worse. It suffers from many of the same problems as Orphus did, but it definitely didn't have anything like the wheelchair problem in that. If you listen to that episode, then you already know what I'm talking about with that one. But anyway, Laptop was, I don't even know what to say, whether, like, comparison-wise, whether I like this one better or not. Definitely there are fewer moments where I kind of, like, laughed. I didn't really mention that in the other review, but there were a couple of moments that, like, some of the random things that were happening were so ridiculous and preposterous, like the way people were behaving, that I think I literally laughed at 1 or 2 points in that short film. There's nothing like that in this, really, but it's just not very good. And it just like the thing with the small problem with the wheelchair, and I couldn't get off of the wheelchair problem. I have another problem with this one, which is that it starts and says that it's based on true events. If you're going to make a movie that is based on true events, it had better be based on true events. I better be able to go to Google and type in the name of your movie and, based on a true story, and they should be able to pop up with some news items or, some whatever it is that tells me exactly what story this is based off of. Now, I don't necessarily demand that everything be exactly as things laid out. It really depends on the type of movie that you're making. and all of that. I do understand there has to be some measure of like artistic license, but this movie is so like bland and it lacks so much detail that, I mean, like, this story could easily be based on a true story. There is no keywords for you to search about this, like, other than searching the name, which is just, again, it's laptop. You're never gonna find that. The character's name, I think, is like Jenny or something. I don't care enough to look it up. They never give her a last name as far as I know, so you can't look it up based on that. And it's, and nothing that happens in it is distinct in any way. This is not based on a true story. I'm going to go ahead and come right down on that and say this is not based on a true story, other than that, like, sometimes people do own laptops that they have in their home, and sometimes bad things do happen to them. And that's essentially what this movie is a woman who owns a laptop, and bad things happen because it's a horror movie, sort of. So the acting in this is there isn't much acting in this. Basically, the whole thing. I start with this movie. I start to tell one thing, like one problem, and it makes me get into the three other problems that contribute to that one single problem. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just try to work this out as I was going to say it. So, there isn't much acting. The reason why there isn't much acting is because in this particular story, this woman is typing on her computer to somebody on the internet. They don't say what site she's on. They never show the site because the entire movie is told from the perspective, it's taken from the perspective of her laptop, like, webcam. And it looks, I don't know whether or not they used a webcam camera, like the one that would just be pre-installed on your laptop these days. They just come with them. I feel like the resolution on the camera was a bit too high for those, but it's possible if it was a nice laptop, it might have a good camera on it. I don't really know. But this also means that you're at this really, like, not very good angle for the room that you're in. For almost the entire movie, you're in this single angle shot, and it looks it's just an awkward angle because it's just at odds with all of the things in the room. It would be fine if you were talking to your friend on a laptop and that was the camera and the angle that you got, because you'd be, talking to your friend and you don't really care whether, things look sort of at odds because of the, the angle and the type of lens. It was sort of a wide lens or something. I wasn't terribly sure. But this is a movie. And like I said, I'm not even sure this was an actual webcam. If this was actually filmed on a webcam, then I understand. There are definitely, like, limitations to that. But I really think what they had is, like, a keyboard set out in front of her. And this was, like, a real camera that was set in a fixed angle. It's not a good angle, and it looks really weird. It means that there's, like, no cinematography to this whatsoever. I actually should have looked to see if they had a cinematographer credit in that, because it would be really funny. But yeah, so, okay, it's supposed to be based on a true story. She's just sitting at her computer typing. The whole movie, she has maybe 3 lines, and they're mostly just, 3 words, not even 3 lines. And she's just sitting there and she's typing, and then, somebody types something to her and she kind of reacts to it, usually doesn't react to it. And then just continues doing whatever she was doing before. She's humming this very nondescript song that they can't be sued for her singing or for her humming. It's not like a song. If it is, then maybe I'm mistaken, but it just sounds like a weird combination of notes to be in an actual song. And that's pretty much the whole movie. She never really has any chance to act in this because all she's doing is sitting there. I mean, she could have decided to act more freaked out about whatever is going on her computer, or whatever's going on in her house, or whatever is happening. But it just doesn't happen. I'm afraid I'm skating too close to spoiler territory on all of this stuff, so I'm just gonna stop talking about it. Basically, she doesn't act, whether she has the opportunity to or not. There's definitely some stuff that's done for convenience. At a certain point, she puts on her headphones because she's listening to this, apparently the same song that she's humming that's not a song, and she's like, humming the song and bobbing her head around and whatever, and just playing around on her computer or looking through a photo album or something. I can't even remember at this point. She puts the photo album like in front of the camera as she's looking at it, and it's very clear what they're doing is they're intentionally trying to block the view of the camera. It's fine, whatever, you can do that. But it's just not like, it's so held up. Like if you were literally sitting at a computer desk and holding, and holding up a photo album in front of you, it would be so awkward to be holding it up off the table. Like you would just lay it down on the table. You'd move your laptop back and like lay it down on the table. Nobody's going to be holding it way up inches above where the table probably is, or where you assume the table line is, and looking through it. It's an awkward book. It's a kind of an ugly book, to be completely honest, but whatever. Photo albums are probably ugly a lot of the time. I mean, it might have been a binder or something, but if so, it was a really weird binder. And then so as far as the plot convenience thing, see, I keep going down these rabbit holes of like problems that remind me of other problems with this movie. This movie is kind of a headache. It's really not that bad, but when you start to think about all of the individual problems, it just turns into this whole, can of worms. But so the plot convenience thing, she's wearing these headphones or whatever, which it makes it convenient for the thing that's going to happen. And then because it's going to be hard for, for that thing to happen while she has them on, she just takes them off. She's had these headphones on for like what appears to be 15 seconds and then takes them off. And they're not very convincing at like giving her a reason to take them off, other than that like a thing needs to happen and she can't have headphones on while they do that, or it's going to be like a big problem. So she takes them off and like sets them down, and then the thing happens. So sorry to spoil this one for you. I guess I really did, but I don't really know what else to do. There's like nothing else that I can do to explain all of the different problems with this. I almost just want to abandon this review, honestly. Like this is like a sinking ship. The review, the movie, like everything. There's so many problems with it. The angle is uninteresting. The place where it's filmed is fine for a short film. It's definitely not great. The color correction, much like in Orphus, was a little heavy-handed. It's probably a little less heavy-handed than it was before. But another problem that I had is the same problem of the description of the movie in other places like IMDb and YouTube. Like if you go into the show notes or whatever they call that, the video description, it tells you things that in no way were relayed to the audience. For one thing, apparently this was a found footage film, which I didn't know while watching it, because there's several things that couldn't have been found footage that are in this. It's, there's small things, but they couldn't have been part of the actual found footage. So it's supposed to have been something that happened to this girl, this woman, and the only way that they were able to like know any of this is that there was video left from this camera. Okay, couple of problems with that. Why was she recording herself typing on the internet and looking at a photo album? She wasn't talking to anybody else on like Skype or something. I mean, in so much as I don't even know if Skype was around in 2011. It probably was. I don't know. I don't use Skype. But there's just not, she didn't have any particular reason to be recording. So how did they find this recording? Second, there is some footage that's in this that cannot have come from that camera. Specifically timestamps. They show, there's a couple of places where for some reason they cut away for a few minutes. No reason why, as far as I can tell. And I think it's just a few minutes. I don't think it's like long periods of time, but they cut away. And every time they say 10:18 p.m. or something, it goes to this like a shot of what appears to be the camera itself, like the lens of the camera. Well, you couldn't have that if this was found footage. There's also, I believe, shots of what's supposed to be the outside of the house in a couple of places. And again, that's not footage that they found from that laptop that she wasn't filming from. So, I don't know. Again, this is context that you don't have as an audience member if you're just watching the movie. And I hate that. Don't make me read something separate from the piece that you're actually, putting out there in order to make any sense of what's happening. Now, mind you, this actually made more sense without that context. If this is taking place present day and, she's just sitting at her computer, I don't have to ask myself, why is the laptop camera running? Why would she be recording herself sitting there doing nothing? Was it an accident? Did she hit something? Who knows? Because they never actually show the screen of the computer, and they never really show her doing anything. The only way that they show her typing or doing anything with the computer is by text on the screen. It's very legible and easy to read, which is nice because I feel like that's been a problem in a couple of the things that I've watched recently, the ultra low budget films. But nothing that's being said to her is really all that. Okay. There's just really no way around saying some of these things that are going to be, either spoilers or bordering on spoiler territory. And I'm just going to say them because they are big problems. The things that the person that she's supposed to be talking to are saying are not really terribly, out of the ordinary. There are definitely things that people just say. It's not that aren't really that weird very much. Or if they are sort of weird, they're not really intimidating in any way. One of the things that they actually say, and I could not believe this, is, "Do you like scary movies?" Which is a line straight out of Scream. I don't know if you're familiar with the Scream series. I think most people of at least my generation are. But that's one of the things that is supposed to be like a leading action to realize like she's being, like somebody is being weird on the internet with her. And it's just so funny to me that they literally lifted a line from Scream, which, is not even really a particularly good line. It is a very well-known line though. So why would you take that? And it's in Scream, it's delivered through this weird voice box. And it does sound sort of creepy, I guess, kind of. And it kind of works because it's got a weird voice modulator and it's like a thing. It's like a signature for that movie. So you're stealing somebody else's signature, but you're portraying it in text. It's probably a reference, I assume. But it's not delivered in any way that is like a good homage. I don't know. I'm just gonna stop talking about that. But like, regardless, nothing that's said is in any way like, ooh, that's a creepy thing. Like, nothing makes you feel scared about what's being said. Like, I have had so much worse said to me by people that I knew on the internet. So it's just not a thing. What's happening there is just so bland and tasteless that there's nothing. Another problem, and this makes sense from the found footage angle, there's no music in this at all. The only sound effects in the movie basically are her typing on the keyboard and her humming. And that's like the only sounds that you hear. So maybe it would have been a little easier to accept that the words that were being sang were creepy if they had had some kind of like a musical track to back it up. Like, oh, that's a fucking weird thing for a person to say. and I really honestly can't speak to whether that would have helped. It probably would have helped a little bit, but the lines themselves are just not scary. There's nothing ridiculous. Nobody sends any ridiculously disturbing images or anything like that. In fact, there's not really anything like that in this movie. As far as the actual ending, it pretty much goes how you might expect it to go, except for probably done worse than you're picturing in your head. There is one particular moment, an effect that is used that's not bad, right towards the end of the movie, but that's kind of it. Like, that's the only, like, craft that I really felt like was in this movie. Honestly, like, as long as I don't just accidentally pick up one, I don't think I will check anything out from this person. It looks like that was 4 years before this, before the one that I saw the other day. In those 4 years, it doesn't seem like he's learned very much. Now, he's not using that fixed point camera in that, and so that's an improvement in Orphus. And so the cinematography or the camera work in that was pretty good, as I recall. That wasn't the problem. But as far as, like, the real core problem is that this person clearly is just not a writer. They want to direct and they want to make movies, and that's totally fine. I totally get that impulse. I totally do. But they should really be working with someone else who's writing their scripts, because these two movies are just so tasteless and bland. They're completely different types of movies in two completely different subgenres of horror or thriller or whatever you want to call this one. But they suffer from the exact same problem, which is that there is no flavor. There's nothing going on. This and this one had the audacity again to assert that it's based on true events. I have no doubt that there was flatly, this one just is not based on a true story. There's nothing like this. This is something that's probably happened to a number of people. Don't get me wrong. Like, people have had bad interactions with people on the internet, and people have found them. But there is no way that you're telling me that this is a specific case where this particular person named Jenny was attacked in her home with this bland of writing between the two of them, just like kind of nothing conversations, and then quotes, a 90s slasher movie. Well, actually it was 2000, I think, slasher movie. And that's when she gets creeped out. And then, I don't know. I don't know. I'm rambling on this one, honestly, because I really can't understand how someone can have this poor of writing and still... And nobody around them, whether they're involved in the project or not, can be like, maybe you should work with someone on this. Maybe you should workshop this with somebody. Maybe you should... they have writing classes in community colleges everywhere in the United States. And abroad in many places, I assume, too. There's plenty of places where you can get feedback on stuff like this. This person clearly has no feedback or is getting bad feedback from anybody that they do have. The directing, honestly, in this is worse, but most of that is down to, like, the fixed position camera. There isn't much else to do. And probably some of it has to do with just the people that they have available to do things. I understand zero budget movies, but, like, somebody, for the love of God, write this guy something that he can actually direct that he didn't write. And I would really actually be interested in seeing if that's any better, or if it suffers from many of the same problems because they're not foreseeing anything, or they're not screening it with anyone. They're not getting any feedback about the finished product either. So I don't know. I guess that's all I really have to say about this one. Much like Orphus, there's just a load of different problems, and those problems lead to other problems, which lead to other problems. Nothing particular against, this filmmaker. They've been at it for a long time. They've been working and obviously doing things themselves a lot. And, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and just doing something that you love. It's a great thing. But it would be really great if this person could branch out in any way and involve other people in his project that would be a benefit to the project and to this person's craft. There's so many problems from this movie that were not corrected by 2015 when they made Orphus. They're not really developing as an artist as far as I can see, other than the cinematography, which this movie just doesn't have it. It's like an NA category, honestly, for cinematography, because you're sitting in one position. Mind you, the camera angle that it's sitting at is not very good, but maybe you can argue that perhaps they were going for realism, where it's not going to be in a very pretty place, and the laptop that she's in isn't going to be at a slightly more elevated position, or whatever. It's it's at the height that it would be on a computer or something close to that. It's fine, but yeah, I don't know. I would probably not watch again intentionally, at least. I don't think I would watch anything from this person again unless it was written by somebody else. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I would be really interested to see, again, if working on somebody else's piece would just, first of all, the writing hopefully would be better, but also to see if you take that out of the equation, if this filmmaker is really worth watching in any capacity. I know I've repeated a lot of things 15 times in this one. I think I did a bit of that in the last one that I did from this person. It's kind of unavoidable. But I guess that's my review of Laptop from 2011. And I guess that's my show. If for some reason you enjoyed this, please rate, review, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever site that you found us. The best way that you can help out the show is to share it with someone that you love or someone that you think would enjoy the show. If you'd like to share it with someone and they don't have the same platform as you, or if you don't like the platform that you found us, we are available on YouTube, Player FM, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, and pretty much any podcatcher out there. If you would like to reach out to us on social media, you can do so at reclusehorror@gmail.com or Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Hopefully I'll be able to get this up quickly and get myself some sleep. I apologize if, again, I repeated myself a lot in that, in that review and so forth. I'm pretty exhausted, and just need more sleep. So, yeah, anyway, have a good night.